Hey, news kids! Have you ever seen an ice cube as big as a country? Well, guess what? One of the biggest icebergs in the world just broke free and started drifting across the ocean. It's called A23A, and it has been stuck for 30 years before finally making its big escape. Let's dive into this story and find out how it happened. First, let's talk about what an iceberg actually is. Did you know that icebergs are giant chunks of ice that break off from glaciers or ice shelves and float in the ocean? But here's the crazy part. 90% of an iceberg is underwater. That's why ships like the Titanic had trouble spotting them. Think of an iceberg as a mountain made of ice floating on the sea. Now let's talk about A23A, the biggest free-floating iceberg in the world. This icy giant is 1,418 square miles. That's like 100,000 football fields, twice the size of New York City, bigger than Los Angeles. If you placed it in the middle of a country like France, it would take up nearly half of Paris. But the real mystery is why it was stuck for 30 years. A broke off from Antarctica way back in 1986. So why did it break off? Huge icebergs break off naturally when they become too heavy or when warm ocean waters erode the ice from below. Why was it stuck for 30 years? When it broke off, it landed on the shallow ocean floor like a car getting stuck in mud. It was too big and too heavy to move. So how did A23A finally break free after 3 whole decades? 1. Warmer oceans. Over time, rising ocean temperatures melted the bottom of the iceberg, making it lighter. 2. Stronger currents. Powerful ocean currents started pushing against the iceberg, slowly nudging it forward. 3. A final big push. Recently, a combination of warming waters and strong winds gave A23 the final push it needed to start floating again. Now it's moving north, floating into the open ocean for the first time in 30 years. So where is this giant iceberg headed now? Right now, A23A is drifting north toward the Southern Ocean, getting closer to a place called the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. This current is like a superhighway of water that circles Antarctica, and it could carry the iceberg thousands of miles away. Some scientists believe it could end up near South Georgia Island, a remote place in the southern Atlantic Ocean. So what happens now? Will A23A just float forever? Here's what could happen next. 1. It might melt. As A23A moves into warmer waters, it could melt completely in a few years. 2. It might break into pieces. Big icebergs like this often crack apart into smaller chunks before melting. 3. It might keep floating for years. Some icebergs survive for years before disappearing. Why does this matter? If A23A reaches South Georgia Island, it could block important feeding routes for penguins, seals, and other animals. The longest living iceberg lasted 18 years. Could A23A break that record? You might also be wondering, do new icebergs replace the old ones? Yes, icebergs are part of the natural cycle in Antarctica. New icebergs form when fresh snowfall adds weight to glaciers, causing chunks to break off. But scientists are watching closely because climate change is making icebergs break off faster than usual. So, news kids, what do you think will happen to A23A? Will it melt, break apart, or float for years? Drop your guesses in the comments below. And if you love cool science news like this, hit subscribe and ring the bell for more updates from NewsKids. See you next time, explorers. Stay curious.